Hey, I'm Laura. Just quickly, we here at GRITtv are proud to bring you independently produced content every day. Now it's your chance to help us. GRITtv has been offered a $100,000 challenge grant. Every dollar you give right now between now and June 30th is worth $3 to us. We've only got a few more weeks to meet the match. Will you help? You can donate at our website, GRITtv.org. Meanwhile, enjoy this clip. To begin, the U.S. has authorized a major expansion of clandestine military operations abroad, according to a New York Times report this week. The top U.S. commander in the Middle East, General David Petraeus, apparently issued a secret directive back in September, broadening the role of special operations forces throughout the Middle East, Central Asia, and the Horn of Africa. Already, the number of U.S. troops in Afghanistan is triple what it was when President Obama took office. What comes next? And as if to remind us of the toll these deployments take on our troops and our infrastructure, not to mention those we kill, a 27-year-old Iraq war veteran committed suicide in front of a veterans hospital in Dayton, Ohio last month in an apparent effort, many think, to sound an alarm about medical care. Jesse Charles Huff shot himself with a rifle in front of the Veterans Affairs Department's medical center, where he'd been seeking treatment. With more war in store and Memorial Day on its way, where are we? We're going to check in next with Jose Vasquez, Executive Director of Iraq Veterans Against the War. First, this from Barack Obama speaking at graduation at West Point this week.
America does not fight for the sake of fighting. We abhor war. As one who has never experienced the field of battle, and I say that with humility, knowing, as General MacArthur said, the soldier, above all others, prays for peace. We fight because we must. We fight to keep our families and communities safe.
So how are we doing keeping families, communities safe, Jose, as we approach this Memorial Day weekend? Who's on your mind?
Well, definitely the service members that are in and our members. Unfortunately, we just learned recently that one of our members down at Fort Hood was found in her apartment, and we're not clear what the circumstances were. But
found how?
Well, she was a roommate with another member, and from what we understand, she had some history with mental health issues over at Fort Hood, and was found in her apartment. The circumstances aren't really clear at this point, and I don't want to say her name, but
it looked like she might have killed herself?
That's what some of the folks that are down there think, yeah.
So you think about her and the pressure on veterans. The president, right before this part of his speech, talked about whatever he may want or not want about war, more of it is likely. We're seeing successes, he says, using that famous we, killing al-Qaeda leaders in Afghanistan. But more will come at us,
sure.
He also said, et cetera, et cetera. It sounds like much more war is in store.
Well, right, in his speech he says we abhor war, and I want to ask, why are we spending so much on it then? And if you look at the history since World War II, we've been engaged in just numerous engagements throughout that time period, and I feel like a lot of our economy, a lot of our riches, a lot of our time has been invested in that, and you know, I think we need to start to seek out alternatives to war.
Now, forgive me, but it seems to me that a year ago, this week we marked this horrible, grim milestone of 1,000 dead U.S. service people in Afghanistan, the end of last week. Forgive me, but it seems like the last few times we've met these milestones, there hasn't been much of a reaction. There hasn't been much of a quiver. Where is the anti-war movement? Where is the veterans movement? Are you just so busy trying to deal with vets' needs that there is less time for making noise?
Well, I think that what we're trying to focus on now is a lot of GI outreach and helping soldiers understand that if they have questions about the war and if they feel like they don't want to deploy again, we're there to support them. One of the things we're doing this Memorial Day is kicking off what's called a UXO tour. We're teaming up with a collective of organizers that are putting together concerts in major cities and near military bases, trying to reach out to the GIs, let them know that we are there to support them. We feel that in addition to marches and rallies, which I feel are also important, we really want to do the organizing on the ground and create the community for the service members and vets to come speak out.
What sort of support are they needing, and are you able to give?
I mean, in our office, we deal with calls, everything from folks looking for discharge counseling, people trying to appeal their claims at the VA, all sorts of family support issues while they're deployed, immigration issues for folks that are in country in Iraq or Afghanistan, or when they get back, they're facing sometimes being deported. So there's just a whole range of issues that I feel service members and veterans need help on.
The New York Times recently compiled a video montage of people who were asked their thoughts on the eve of deployment. Here's a quick sample.
The only thing I'm really worried about this deployment is not coming back.
I could get hit by an IED, I could be shot.
I've promised everybody that I would come back, and that's kind of a promise that I can't really keep because I don't know what's going to go on.
You know, it's my life, and I'm only 19.
No one's patrolled the area, so that's what I'm more concerned about.
I'm not really scared at all, like, for this deployment in any, really way. I'm not quite sure why. It might seem weird, but...
The only thing that I've ever really worried about is my kids. I mean, I grew up without a father, so I would never want my kids to have to do that.
Any thoughts on hearing all those fears?
Well, I think what strikes me is the young faces that we're sending off to war for sure, and everything from family concerns to just dying at a very young age. I think people sign up the military for a lot of different reasons, economic, educational, to experience the world, and I feel like one of the things that we need to do is really start to educate people about their options beyond the military. I mean,
I have to say I have a lot of respect for Alan Grayson in Florida, who entered this piece of legislation to Congress last week, the War is Making You Poor Act, as an effort to try to point out that we are not only spending the $5.5 billion that we know about in the budget, but also an additional $1.5 billion of so-called emergency funding. It should be none of it secret, he says. I'll play the clip in just a second. But this is, to me, refreshing in the sense that it's Memorial Day. Shouldn't be a time when we're just celebrating or commemorating those who've died, but try to stop the dying.
Right. I mean, one way to stop making veterans is to stop making war. And I think people are angry about how much money we're spending if we take stock from, from September 11th until now. It's just been astronomical, and there's cuts across the board. Students are facing cuts, cities are facing cuts, and so I feel like, whatever, this elected representative, Mr. Grayson, is working on, people are going to, it's going to resonate with folks, and, any sort of effort from the people to sort of hold government in check, we're all for that.
Yeah, and choices for those who are right now coming out of school remain slim. Many of them looking at these massive unemployment rates, 44%, or 4 out of 10 of all African-American young men unemployed. What's your advice to somebody who might be watching this program thinking, well, what else should I do?
In terms of joining the military versus the economy, I mean, I feel like, making noise about the fact that, if the military is their only option out of high school, out of college in some cases, that's just really a sad state of affairs for our country. And, there's jobs that are being shipped overseas. There's all sorts of issues that folks are facing, and people are going back to school, back to grad school, because they can't find a job.
The president said he's going to expand covert intelligence gathering operations around the world. Any concerns?
Well, certainly, whenever we send troops in harm's way, I'm concerned about that. But I feel like, what are they up to? And is this going to be a further extension? We're sort of setting ourselves up for the next invasion, whether it's Iran or somewhere else, Pakistan. So, I'm always concerned when special operations are out and about, because that sort of is a precursor to our next move.
Jose Vasquez is the Executive Director of Iraq Veterans Against the War. There's a link at our website. We'll go out with that clip from Alan Grayson.
H.R. 5353, the War is Making You Poor Act. The War is Making You Poor Act does 3 things. First, it requires the administration to carry out the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan with only, that's only, the $549 billion set forth in the President's budget for defense spending, without the additional $159 billion the President has asked for the sake of the so-called emergency war, which now stretches on to 9 years in one case and 7 years in the other. My view is that $549 billion is enough for these wars or any other wars the President plans to engage in.